Welcome. I have a rather unusual pen to show you. This pen is a Fuliwen Egypt Mars pen. That is the way it is listed on Aliexpress. It is a very large brass pen. I'm very interested in Egyptology and anything to do with ancient or Ptolemaic Egyptian times. And I decided that I would like to have this pen, and I'm willing to take the chance that it doesn't even write properly. I just wanted the pen. If it turns out that it doesn't write well, then it will just be a display piece on my bookshelf. Let's take a look at this pen. It has a very large domed cap. The clip looks like an arrow design, and it is a very stiff clip. And the entire pen is covered with hieroglyphs. We see here the falcon hieroglyph for the falcon god Horus. And here we see the Waz scepter, which is a symbol of power. This pharaoh or god is wearing, I had to do some research on this. It says this is the hem crown, which was first recorded during the time of Akhenaten, but it's also associated with the Ptolemaic pharaohs. Here we see another god or pharaoh with the white crown of Upper Egypt, and it traditionally had ostrich plumes on the sides. Notice that he has the Ankh symbol of life in his left hand and the Waz scepter in his right hand. Now we will move down to the barrel. The barrel size decreases slightly with a very small step down to the barrel. And here we see a depiction of papyrus, the papyrus plant, which was very important in Egyptian life. And here we have what I believe is the god Amun-Ra, because he is often depicted with the crown that consists of two tall plumes. And we see the flail above his left hand. The crook and the flail were the two most obvious symbols of the pharaohs and the gods, and the symbol of power. I believe this is a side view of a sarcophagus. And we see here the scarab beetle, which was a symbol of transformation or transfiguration. There is the lotus blossom, the Waz staff once more, the Waz scepter, excuse me. There is a cartouche, which was the emblem that contained people's names. It contained symbols that if you knew how to read the hieroglyphic symbols, you would know whose name that was. And I don't know who this person is supposed to be. He or she is wearing the tall plumed crown. But I don't know that I have ever seen a depiction of a god or pharaoh with that particular hairstyle or wig, as it probably is. There we have the sacred bull, and directly underneath the vulture. Now, the vulture is one of the oldest symbols of divine protection in the history of Egyptian kingship. In very ancient times, the vulture represented protection by the goddess Nekbat. And if you go to Egypt today and do a tour of the temples, you will see the vulture symbol virtually everywhere, although it's usually depicted with the wings outspread in flight. There are more papyrus plant symbols. And the pen ends in this long brushed silver-colored end finial. This is a cartridge converter pen. The cap comes off in 1.5 turns. And we have this number 6 sized steel Fuliwen branded nib. I think it's a very attractive nib. Doesn't have a lot of elaborate scroll work. And there is the plastic feed. And this is a medium nib. When I ordered the pen, I don't recall that it gave me a nib size option. But anyway, I have a medium nib. The grip section is quite short, and it slopes downwards, so I won't know until I start writing with this pen whether that's going to make my fingers slip down onto the nib, whether it's going to be an issue or not. Time will tell. And we have some fairly smooth threads. And the threads look to me as if they may be, I can't really tell what the threads are made out of. My first guess was that they are made out of a plastic. Because the cap is lined with plastic. So it would make sense to have the plastic threading on plastic. Now this brings up another issue, and that is cross-threading. There aren't that many reviews of this pen online, but the one or two that I did say mentioned this cross-threading problem when you go to cap the pen. But if you just back off of it and try again, then it closes nicely. And that doesn't really bother me. And here is the converter. It is quite a large converter. It is not a threaded converter. So I will get this pen inked up and we will see how it writes. I made so many notes on the symbolism of this pen that I left out a few things, which I will rectify my mistake now. As near as I could determine, this figure is Osiris, and the crown, the type of crown, is the Atef crown, which is also known as the white crown or crown of Upper Egypt. But this figure is intended to be Osiris. Osiris is one of the most powerful Egyptian gods, and he has a very interesting life story. Osiris was murdered by his brother Set, who dismembered him, cut him into pieces, and threw those pieces into the River Nile. And Osiris's wife, Isis, gathered up the bits of her husband and reassembled them. And this is a family-friendly channel, but let us say that they had knowledge of one another, and the result of that was their son, Horus. And there was something else I meant to point out. The feather. The feather is another very important symbol in Egyptian hieroglyphs. It's sometimes called the feather of Mot, and the feather stands for truth and justice. Apparently, before you can pass into the afterlife, your heart has to be weighed on a scale with your heart on one side and a feather on the other. And if your heart is not light enough or as light as that feather, you will not pass into the afterlife. There is an Osiris chapel in the temple of Seti I in Abydos, Egypt, which is a large room that is dedicated to the god Osiris, and there are reliefs on the wall that tell the story of how he was murdered by his brother Set and resurrected by his wife Isis, which eventually led to the birth of their son Horus. It's one of the most fascinating parts of the temple of Seti I. The temple of Seti I is also the location for the famous hieroglyphs that people think resemble a spaceship and a helicopter and a submarine. You have to get special government permission to visit either the Temple of Seti I at Abydos or the Temple of Dendera. Dendera is the temple that has the underground passageway that has reliefs on the walls that show what appear to most people to look like giant light bulbs. And people are always trying to find things in the Egyptian temples that would prove to them that there was alien influence on the building of the temples and pyramids. So you can see that this pen writes very well and very smoothly. I've just finished putting ink in the pen, and so this was my very first attempt at writing with this pen. I'm very pleased with the smoothness of it. And the ink is Diamine All the Best. A few notes on the size of the pen. It is 15 millimeters in diameter. The cap length is 155 millimeters. The grip is 10 millimeters. The weight is 57 grams. And of course, the nib is a medium. I'm happy with this pen. I was happy with just the way it looks, but I'm also pleased that it writes well. I hope you enjoyed this look at my new pen, and I hope that I did not bore you too very much with my little Egyptian history lecture. Thank you for watching.